Alright, right now we're going to look at one of the trickier cons for 8th graders. Use Pythagorean theorem to find isosceles triangle side lengths. The key for this is using your scratch pad. Find the value of x in the isosceles triangle shown below. Alright, well here's x. We have to find the base of the triangle. So we're going to look at this right triangle here. And we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem. We know that 8 squared plus, we'll call this y, it's half of x, plus y squared equals the square root of 80 squared. Now the square root of any number squared is just that number. So the square root of 80 squared is 80. The square root of, 8 squared is 64. So 64 plus y squared is 80. That means y squared is 16, because 64 plus 16 is 80. And y must be 4, because 4 times 4 is 16. So if y is 4, and that's half of the base, then x must be 4 plus 4, which is 8. Number 2, find the value of x in the isosceles triangle shown below. Again, we have to use a right triangle, because Pythagorean theorem has to do with right triangles. So here the key is seeing that for this right triangle, the hypotenuse is 8, we don't know the height, and this leg right here is half of the base, so just 4. That gives us 4 squared plus x squared equals 8 squared. 16 plus x squared equals 64. 64 minus 16 is 48, so x squared is 48, which means x is the square root of 48. Number 3. They're trying to trick you on this one by thinking it's the 3, 4, 5. It's not, because we again have to look at half of the isosceles triangle, this right triangle right here. And it has a leg of 3 and a leg of 2. 3 squared plus 2 squared equals x squared, because x is the hypotenuse. 9 plus 4 is x squared. 13 equals x squared. So therefore, x is the square root of 13. Number 4. Here we do have a nice triangle. We have a famous triplet. Something squared plus 8 squared equals 10 squared. Over here in my other tab, I have a picture of Pythagorean triplets. And we can see right here, 6, 8, 10, one of the most famous triplets. So, x is not 6. Half of the base is 6. So x is 6 plus 6, which is 12. Another famous one. Half of 10 is 5. So this right triangle right here is a 5 blank 13. That's a 5, 12, 13. So the height, x is 12. I hope you can see on the previous 2 problems how having these triplets memorized can help you solve Pythagorean theorem questions a lot faster. Again, split the base in half, because we're looking at this right triangle. And we have 2 squared plus 6 squared equals x squared. 4 plus 36 equals x squared. 40 equals x squared. So x is the square root of 40. All right, final question. Going for a 7 out of 7. Find the value of x in the isosceles triangle below. Well, once again, we're going to look at half of the isosceles triangle because that is a right triangle. And when we do that, this leg, what's going on? This leg is half of the base. So we'll call that y. Y squared plus 3 squared equals square root of 45 squared. Very useful to recognize when you have a square root squared, you're just back to that number. So square root of 45 squared is 45. Y squared plus 9 equals 45. 45 minus 9 is 36, so y squared is 36. Y is 6. So if y is 6 and that's half the base, then x must be 12, 6 plus 6. And there you have it, 7 out of 7. The key, identify the right triangle, use your scratch pad, write out the Pythagorean theorem, and be on the lookout for these famous Pythagorean triplets.